Hey everyone, CNC Keith here. In this video, I'm going to talk about installing a new version of Centroid CNC12 software. For the example in this video, I'll be running version 482 Acorn router CNC12. And you'll notice over here on the right that this particular installation has a customized VCP. I think this VCP was created by Sword on the forum. I like the big cycle start and cycle cancel buttons. There's a couple custom buttons here, like spindle warm up and table surfacing. And he also modified the background of the reset button image, which is pretty cool. Nice yellow look there. I like that a lot. So what we want to do here with this installation is install the new version of Centroid CNC12 software. As of this video on 5/16, it's version 5.0. And so when you're trying to make the decision of whether you want to install the latest version or not, you can go to the CNC software downloads page by clicking on tech support. It takes you to this page. There's the download for CNC12 version 5.0. And here's the release notes. So I highly recommend that what you do is you scan through the release notes. And the big thing with this version is there's a lot of added new features, and we have unified version 5.0 CNC12 to work with Oak, All-in-One DC, Hickory, Acorn, and Acorn 6. So it's the same installer and the same version as CNC12 across all platforms. You might see the word unified floating around, and that's what that's talking about. Where previously there were two different branches of CNC12 software. Now it's all one. So in the release notes, there's a nice list with a description here of all the additions and changes. So if you're running 482 like I am right now, which is a great stable version for regular Acorn, you got to ask yourself, is there any features on this list that I want? And if there is, then that's a reason to update. If not, I would say you might not want to update. 482 is a great version of software. It's rock solid. If you got a machine working and you're in production and you don't need any of these features that's here on the report, it's perfectly fine to stay at 482. But if you want one of these features, or you're a power user and you just like using the latest stuff, I'm going to show you in this video how I install a new version of CNC12 and show you how easy it is to switch, or some people use the word revert. It's actually you're switching from one installation to another. You're not actually reverting any piece of software. You have different installations, and you can quickly choose which installation you want to run at that given moment. And it's super easy to do. So I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. And I'm going to talk a little bit in general about the updating process. So to be clear, the CNC12 installer is not an updater. It is an installer. It installs a new version of CNC12, which has to be configured to match your particular machine and have any of your custom macros and all that kind of stuff. Just like you did the very first time you installed CNC12. It's necessary to do that. It's not going to automatically figure out all your custom macros and custom buttons and copy and update that over on top of this version. Some people have the wrong impression that when you download 5.0 that it's going to install on top of what you already have. That's not the way it works. This is a fresh install. You have to configure it just like the very first time that you configured your machine. Now, thankfully, the wizard in Acorn and Acorn 6 makes that really easy. So if you have a standard install, it'll take 10-20 minutes tops to get from 482 to version 5.0 and be up and running. Standard meaning you didn't have a lot of custom stuff. It's pretty easy to copy over your tool libraries and your work coordinates, and I'm going to show you how to do that and be up and running. Even minor VCP tweaks only take a few minutes to copy over from the old version to the new one. But the point being is it's up to you to update version 5.0 with any customizations and all the specific parameters that are specific to your machine tool and your application. And so I'm going to show you how I do that. So the very first thing I do is I go and create a report.zip. And I'm going to just save it on my desktop. So I'm running version 482. This is a running install, and I create a report. Now, all right, I'm going to go down a little bunny trail here. Let's talk about the report. What exactly is the report? So let's pull it up. Here's the zip file that CNC12 just made. A zip file, a report.zip file, think of it as a capture of all the CNC control configuration settings that are specific to your machine tool and your application. It's everything that you have adjusted, tweaked. It's your tool libraries, your work coordinates, all the parameters that are set the way you want, all the wizard settings, all the VCP, everything in there that makes this installation right here of CNC12 specific to your machine is contained in that report.zip file. So I like doing that. I mean, one of the big uses for the report while we're talking about it is, let's say the hard drive on this particular install died. As long as I have that report.zip file right there, like the machine's running great, so I make a report. It captures all the critical information that makes this CNC12 install run with the machine. Now I install a new hard drive. All I got to do is go download 482 from the Centroid website, which it's still here at the bottom of the page. There's 482. I can download it. So I download and install 482. 482 comes up. I go to the utility screen and I click Restore Report and I navigate to that report.zip file. And it puts all my settings, all my custom macros, all my custom VCP stuff right back where it was. And then all I got to do is follow the instructions on the screen. It'll tell you to reboot and you're right back where you were. So that's a really powerful thing to use a report.zip for. Well, it would be nice if I could use that from one version to another, but you can't right now. We're going to be changing that in the future with an import report feature in the wizard. One of the reasons why you can't use this report in version 5.0 is there's new stuff in version 5.0, parameters and the way the VCP works, that if you just simply copied all the old version over using the restore report, it would break stuff and it wouldn't work. So we've got to manually copy those things over ourselves. So I can use the files inside the report.zip to copy over to the new install, or I can simply copy them right out of the CNCM directory. This is the 482 CNCM directory that's on the hard drive. So the CNCM directory is the Centroid directory where CNC12 lives, and then all the corresponding files and everything that makes everything that you're looking at on the screen right here work is in the CNCM directory. For instance, there's your tool library. CNCM.ol is offset. CNCM.tl is tool library. Here's the home file. Here's the work coordinates. Here's your smoothing presets. All kinds of good stuff in here. We're going to talk a little. Here's all the macros. And these could be customized or the stock ones. That's what's inside the CNCM directory. Your license file is there as well. I think we're running free, so there's no license file in this particular one. Alrighty, so once I've created the report.zip, the other thing I do is I go to the Acorn wizard, and this is a little cumbersome. I admit we made a new feature in version 5.0 that does this for you automatically. So this is going to become easier from here on out. But what I'm going to do right now is type in the word snip in the Windows search box and start the snipping tool. And I'm going to take screen captures of every single wizard screen. Now, if you're an Acorn user, you're very familiar with a wizard because you've used this to set up your machine. So Acorn and Acorn 6 CNC12 software installations have wizards. And the wizard enables you to program the PLC program and set all your axis configuration. It'll automatically create a home program for you. It'll help you out with pairing and auto squaring. It'll help you out setting up spindles and rigid tapping and lasers and probes and wireless MPGs and using the different screw terminals and CNC control preferences. So this is great. Makes it really easy to set up a CNC control system with the wizard. But what I want to do right now is make screen captures. I'm just going to take an image of every single screen in here so I have a record. So I snipped an image of the setup screen and I hit the little icon to save it. And this is the 4.82 drive type menu. So I would go through every single one of these menus and take a picture of it. So let's just do one more. I'm not going to bore you by doing them all in this video. Alrighty. And this is the 4 point. And I usually put them all in a folder, 482 axis config menu. There we go. So just take a few minutes, rip through the wizard, take a screenshot of everything that's there. Alrighty, once you've done that, it's time to install CNC12 version 5.0. So I'm going to shut down CNC12. I'm going to leave the Acorn system on, and I downloaded 5.0 right here by clicking this button, and you get a zip file, and then I unzip the zip file and I got a folder, and then inside that folder is the executable, which is the installer. So let's just go ahead. So my Acorn is on with a heartbeat connected up to this computer, and that's what you want. I'm going to click install. Little Windows message pops up and says, do you really want to do this? I said yes. And then it asked me a couple questions. So I can put the operator manuals. It's actually the operator manuals on the desktop right here. And I think it might do the install manuals too. That's new with 5.0. We'll see what happens. Or I could also have it automatically start CNC12 at startup. That's what these two checkboxes are doing for you. And this is what's new in version 5.0. Is previously 482 was Acorn specific. So now it's asking, what are you connected to? An Acorn 6, a Hickory, an Acorn? Well, I'm connected to an Acorn, so we do that. And here's the choices under Acorn. I have mill, lathe, router, plasma, and combination router plasma. Combination router plasma is for a machine that does both, as the name implies, router work and plasma work. Well, I have just a router. So I'm going from 482 router to 5.0 router. Inches are metric. And check this out. It says, we notice there's an existing installation of CNC12. Press OK to automatically back up. Well, what exactly is that? Well, that's the CNC directory that I showed you before sitting in my C drive right there. It's noticing that CNC directory is already there. That's the 482 directory. And it's asking, do you want to back that up? I'm going to go, okay, do it. Now, I could have backed that up manually. It's a good idea often to copy that whole directory out to a USB thumb drive and get it on some other computer. Because as you're going to find out in this video, that's all I need to install CNC12. I don't need a Windows installer or uninstaller. All I got to do is copy that CNCM folder back to where it was. And all of a sudden 482 is up and running. It's pretty slick, actually. So this is new here inside of 5.02. It says, hey, we found an Ethernet adapter that's already set up for CNC. Would you like to continue? I'm going to say yes. That's lovely. I don't have to configure any Ethernet adapters. I'm going to click finish. Okay. Let's see what happens. I'm double checking. My Acorn's on. I got a heartbeat. I'm going to double click the desktop icon. And here we go. Very cool. It's installing a new firmware for me, so I don't have to worry about DLLs or installing firmware. It just automatically takes care of it for me. It's awesome. Follow the instructions on the screen. Do not power off the Acorn or else it will damage the firmware. So leave things on. Alrighty. Version 5.0. Welcome. Here we go. First thing you notice is the VCP looks completely different compared to my custom one. Again, this is a fresh install. This did not install on top of 482. This is a fresh install of version 5.0. That's the way the CNC12 installer works. So that means it's fresh and it needs to be set up. So you go to the utility menu is the first thing I do, and let's start putting all the information that we did those screen captures from 482 Wizard back in here. So go through every single one of these menus and manually configure just by doing what I'm doing now. Let's say home all was in the 482 one on input 1. So you set all these menus up. Just go through it. Takes me about 10 minutes usually to do it and double check it. And once you're all said and done, setting everything up the way it was in 482, you hit Right Settings of CNC Control. There's some new things in these menus, which you'll notice. So this whole menu down here is brand new, the ATC Setup menu. So if you previously had an ATC or a turret running in 482, now you use this menu to set it up. And this menu is going to automatically install the macros and configure everything automatically for you. You just answer the questions here in the setup. Alrighty. So once you get all that done, you hit Right Settings of CNC Control and you follow the instructions on the screen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and power cycle the Acorn. It's off. Turning it back on. Going to wait for a heartbeat. Okay, got a heartbeat, and away we go. Now the beauty of the Wizard is it set up all the homing and axis configuration and spindle setup and all that kind of stuff. So the machine would be pretty much running right now. If you didn't have any custom VCP work or custom macros, you would be done right now. Now it's running. But if you had custom stuff like we started with, you notice the VCP looks radically different. How do I get my new VCP to look like the old one? Okay. Well, you can't just copy out the VCP folder from 482 to version 5.0. What you're going to have to do is edit the version 5.0 VCP with the lines in the customized lines that you created in 482. All right, so let's take a look at that. Now, actually, I'm gonna just stop right here for a split second and show you how easy it is to switch from one installation to another. So let's say you put 5.0 on, and for whatever reason you want to go back and try 482. Maybe you noticed a difference in 5.0, you're not sure what it is, and you just want to go back to 482 and use that. Let me show you how easy that is. I'm going to shut down version 5.0. We're going to go to the C directory, and look, there's a new CNCM file. It's called CNCM Backup. And that right there is the 482 CNCM directory. So I'm going to make another copy of it and paste it. And I'm going to come down here and rename this. Working v4.82. And now this CNCM directory is the 5.0 directory that we just installed and configured with the Wizard. I'm going to change that to version 5.0. And now this is the 482 directory that the CNC12 installer made for us. So I just renamed that to CNCM. Now watch what happens when I click this very same icon on the screen that I just used a second ago to start 5.0. Oh wait, look, 482 is installing 482 firmware back on the Acorn for me automatically so that 482 works. And voila, we are right back to our 482 installation. So again, this is not really reverting software. This is simply changing to a different folder, changing to a different installation. of CNC12. I could have as many CNCM directories as I want. Each one of them could be configured differently. And all I've got to do is change the name of the CNCM directory back to CNCM that I want to run at that current point in time. And like I said, I could copy this CNCM directory out right now, copy, and save it on another computer. And if this computer dies someday, all I got to do is paste that folder right there back into the new hard drive or new computer, and I would be up and running in seconds. So it's really trivial to go from one installation to another just by renaming the directory. Okay, so now that you have no fear of going to a new version, I'm going to put this back. Also going to shut down CNC12. And I'm going to rename it. And now I'm going to rename 5.0. And we're going to start 5.0 again. Let's go start 5.0. Here we go. And guess what? It's going to put 5.0 firmware back on the Acorn. There it goes. Okay, firmware installed, BBG rebooted on its own, and we're connected. We're back to 5.0. So we did all our wizard configuration in 5.0, but now I want to get my tool library and my work coordinates and all that kind of stuff over here. So I'm done setting all these menus up. We got basic motion working, but a lot of the data, what about my G-code programs? I want those copied over as well. Well, all you got to do is go back to that 482 directory and pick out the files that you need. So let's find the offset library and the tool library. Those are the two files right there. The work coordinate menu is right there. So let's copy those for starters. So I'm going to put those, and all I do is I just paste them right here in the version 5 directory. Bam! Now I have my work coordinates, all my part zeros, all my offset library, my tool library has been copied over. If you had a custom home program, you would copy that over from 482 and stuff it into 5.0. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that if the wizard is set to automatically generate it. If you do have a custom home program, be sure that you have custom home program selected in the wizard so the wizard doesn't overwrite it. Same with VCP. So let's check that out. Here's the I will create my own home program, do not overwrite button. Make sure you have that selected. And very similarly with the VCP, if you have a custom skin, make sure you click that to yes and then hit right settings to CNC control so that when you use the wizard, it doesn't overwrite your custom home program or your custom VCP. Okay, it's telling us all we need to do is shut down and restart to have those changes take effect. Okay, firing it back up. Alrighty, now let's address the VCP. In version 5.0, we made the feed rate override buttons and the reset button editable. You can move them, delete them, change them, do whatever you want to them. In 482, you could only change the graphics. You couldn't actually delete the button or move the button or make it bigger or smaller. Now this entire section of the VCP down here, the lower section of the VCP in version 5.0, is editable just like the rest of the VCP. So if you customized your VCP, you're familiar. There's a great VCP manual that shows you all kinds of awesome examples on how to edit it. It's on the website and on the forum. So you're familiar with how that works. So let's go take a look at the version 5.0 VCP, which is under Resources, VCP, and under Skins, There's two different skins here for default ones for router. One is with the diagonal buttons, diagonal jogs, and one is the regular default one, which is the one we're using now. But let's open that up in Notepad++. Definitely don't use Notepad for this. Install Notepad++. And this is the XML file that defines, which is fully explained what we're looking at right here and how it works. Every single one of these buttons in the manual that I just spoke of. But let's check it out down here at the bottom what's new. Look at that. Okay, so in the 482 VCP skin, you will not find these lines. These lines are new. So with just like all these other buttons, it's exactly the same. There are now folders for reset, for feed rate negative, feed rate 100, etc. And these are the lines in the skin that tell the VCP to put those buttons here and their function. So what I recommend you do is, if you have a custom VCP, like in this example, let's navigate to that custom VCP. It was in the 482 directory. It's under Resources, VCP, Skins. Let's open it up. Okay, so this is the 482 one, and I'm just going to rename it right now so I can keep track of things. This is the 482 skin that's custom, that had all those big buttons and everything on it. But notice, you know, of course, like I just explained, it doesn't have this code down here, which is going to make the reset button and the feed rate override button display. So what I would do if I were you is I would start with editing the 5.0 skin to look like your 482 skin. So what you could do is you could grab the code that's in the 482 skin that has been customized, any lines here, and copy paste them into the 5.0 skin to recreate the look, feel, and function of the 482 VCP on top, using, not on top of, using a version 5.0 skin. So that's what I'm suggesting that you do. So yeah, we could just bulk grab this, copy, and come over here, and then everything above this we would replace. So I just cut the bulk of the 482 skin out and stuffed it in the 5.0 skin, retaining the new features here at the bottom and anything else that would be new in version 5.0. Now I can hit File, Save. Now, of course, if you have custom graphics, you're going to have to copy those over too. So inside of 482 VCP, there were buttons here. So there you would copy over any buttons that you had created custom graphics for. So what was that one? Was Spindle Warm. A lot of times I do this by date. When I come into a new install, it'll be pretty easy to figure out. But yeah, so Spindle Warm, there you go. So let's see. There you go. There's that graphic. So what I could do is I just copy this entire folder out. So I go Spindle Warm, copy, then go over to 5.0, Resources, VCP, Buttons, and what I would recommend is you find the stock Spindle Warm, rename it stock, and then paste in the 482 Spindle Warm. So you would go through and do that for every single customized button, and in essence rebuilding your custom VCP using version 5.0. Alrighty, I think that's enough to go on for now. This video is getting a little long. I think you got the gist of it. Yeah, it's a little bit of work, but if you want the new features, that's what you do. hopefully in the next version, we're going to add a feature called Import Report into the wizard, and it's going to ask you a bunch of questions and do the bulk of this type of work for you. But for now, that's in general the process of getting over your files from the old install to the new. One last one I just want to mention, license files the same way. You could reinstall your license file, or you can actually go find the license file in the old 482 directory. It's license.dat. On the web page, on the downloads page there is a installation guide, and it pretty much goes over, I think starting on page 7 here, updating from previous versions. So it gives you some guidance on what to do in written format as well, and special instructions for Plasma. Alrighty, good luck with your projects. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.